reveal the actual teachings, and it has a two main theme. That first is to why it is needed or important to become a kind or good person, and then the another second theme is how one can make it oneself as a good or kind person. And the second theme, which is how one can make it oneself the kind and good person, or how to train how to train oneself to become a good person. So that the theme, it is instructed based on using this metaphor of trees, which requires this six characteristic to complete or perfect trees. As those six characteristics, which is root, trunk, branches, leaves, flower, and fruitions. And in order to have a perfect and complete tree, and these are the six characteristics which is required. And similar like that in a meaning, and in order to become a kind and good persons, which means not the kind of like opposing or abandoning the spiritual path, and as well as the kind of like comply or work accordance with the mundane's point of view, also not to contradict with the mundane kind of like activities. So in order to have that kind of the characteristic or the qualities within oneself, that what it requires is to those the metaphor which use those six characteristics similar like that, it requires this mainly six, and each divided two characteristics, so it becomes 12. So comparing how that kind of like comparing with this six example of trees, like a root, it is like integrity, the sensible and trustworthy, like a trunk, modesty and conscientiousness, like a branches, honesty and keeping commitment firmly, like a leaves, recognizing when others have helped you and reciprocating, and diligent to benefit others, and like a flower, the faith and generosity, and like a fruit, happiness and renown. So among this, how to say, sixth or those 12 characteristics, and today we are here in this fifth one, like a flower, or in order to, let's say, for the tree, and in order to make a perfect or complete flower is one characteristic. Likewise, in order to become a good person, kind person, and faith and generosity is also the one part of characteristics in order to become a good, kind person. And then within this fifth one, that which is talking about faith and generosity, we are here in the top studying about faith. And when it talks about the faith, the first stanza in this the 21 pages, the last stanza, that this is the first stanza of describing the faith. So this first stanza, what it is talking about is the entity of faith. And within a faith, that there are 3 or 4 different levels of faith as mentioned. And at the moment in this scripture, that the third faith, which is talking about the faith of belief, and that is what introducing. And then the next, the 2 stanza that we already completed yesterday, and which within this 2 stanza, the main theme or this point is the reason why, and then the benefit of having faith within oneself. And then the next stanza, which is now begins today's teaching, which is the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha are infallible source of refuge, who will never let you down in the immeasurable awakened qualities of the source of refuge. Always have faith and devotions. So this stanza, it is kind of like mainly it talks about the reason that why, as above mentioned, this 3 objects where we can have this faith of belief. And then this first object, which is triple gem. And then this stanza mainly talking about reason why we need to have a faith and belief in triple gem. So that mainly this triple gem or Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is are infallible sources of refuge. So why it is infallible, never let you down, who will never let you down, or are infallible. Infallible is because at this moment when we are talking about this faith of belief and the the what's it faith, we regards that faith meanings to believe.
그래서 이 제방 르게사티라 니코 이 가지 이 제반나이다 르게반나 이 바로 이 제사다 르게사티 밀와 인도 거래서
And when we talk about this faith of belief, and then the belief or the trust that to whom we are having or to whom we are relying or depending, and that object must be something infallible. So therefore, here it is describing the triple gems are infallible. In general, if we, for instance, if we use as medicines, so those medicines are very much depend on a illness, the individual illness. And in the same way, likewise, and then this introducing about triple gems and according to the individual's capacity, and according to the sutra, within a sutra, the Theravadan and Mahayana's way of introducing triple gem. And then all those nine yanas, has a different way of introducing the triple gem. That is that kind of variedness of explanation or introduction about triple gems are there. So therefore, in one hand, in one way, that we can contain all these 84 thousands of teachings that can be contained into the triple gem. So therefore, that if I kind of like describe all of this elaborate way, and this may just makes confused, and also it is unable to describe within short period. And at this moment, that based on my own observations and my own feeling, that what I feel the most suitable for us is and for us, as well as this scriptures at this stanza, according to this stanza, how Mibam Rinpoche is try to introducing triple gems. And why it is saying here are infallible sources of refuge. And this is mainly that how we test, how we depend or rely on them, and according to whatever we have expect, we have the depend, and the accordance to those all wishes can be fulfilled. Therefore, it is describing infallible sources of refuge.
Tati karasana ngaso ke nyawa da ida da tendo la so pa kui ki dunga de la tra ni dele taru ki ani niba de che ne di tawa che ba la ani le ke sa ka yi che sa kare du se ba kare ta te tu ge se ba te es.
So at this moment, the believing in triple gems mainly refers to that the persons who are willing to skip or kind of like a run away from this cyclic existence, such as those hell, pretas, and animal, and so forth, from this cyclic existence, that with the base of understanding this force of cyclic existence, and then uh, kind of like the raising the inclinations to overcome this the force of cyclic existence. And then that when we have this kind of inclinations or interest to overcome from the cyclic existence, and then that who really can uh, protect and lead us towards liberation from that kind of cyclic existence, and the to whom that we can really rely or depend.
Tati karasana ngaso ke ni chhe cha de chhe ku.
And what really exactly that who can protect us from this the cyclic existence and fulfill this our inclinations is the dharma. Dharma can fulfill this our inclinations or our interest.
ngaso khoa ke dunga de la tar gna so su ji ge le da nyamo ba pa jang ku.
And in order us to liberate from this some cyclic existence or this suffering of cyclic existence, and what we need to train or lay it low or eventually eliminate is to this karma and afflictive emotions.
Tati pa jonga la ni lung da tu bi chhe te ma tu ni yen yo ma.
And in order to lay it low and eliminate this too, and there's the only method is the transmissions and the kind of like a realizations teachings.
Pena ngaso nasa dukja chi na che ni di ki dunga le tar gna nasa de ta gu yo re nasa de ta che pa na wes pa ki ko jawa jingen de me ta yo wa.
For instance, when we got sick, and then the main antidote or the remedy for our illness is the pill, the medicines. That medicine will cure our illness.
Tena ni che ngaso su ju la ye bi le de nyamo ba pa jonga de ani ko lam lung da tu bi ki chhe ke lam de jang che ne ani chhe de ma to yen ta ki yo.
And similar like that way, that in order this our illness, karma and afflictive emotions which we have, and in order to cure that, there's the medicine like this transmissions and realizations path of dharma. So this path of dharma alone is the what you call ultimate remedy.
Tichi di ka sa ngaso shamone de ne ko jo sto no ne khare re na chhe ku de ke.
So therefore, among this triple gem, the core or the main, our refuge is the Dharma.
되게 가르치는 거였으나 아주 주로 견데 견게 시작한다. 그 카간도 거였어.
And that is also indicates, on the other hand, that also indicates the way here, this Buddhism introducing the triple gem, it's completely different than the rest of other religions.
주당 아저게 줄로 간다 가니나 이 초보의 줄이 니샹로 당 걔네 그거밖에 줄은 참아 예시네 그 카디네 인디네 제발에 되나야 뭐니 샤송로사 그 유대 나루어
And in general, all kinds of religions, and they have this kind of teachings that in order to enter into their religious or their spiritual path, and one must need to take this refuge. That Christian, even though Christian or Muslim, Hindu, whatsoever, they're describing all this refuge, object of refuge. That this is similar as we do have in Buddhism as well. But what it is different is that the object, the core, main object of refuge, the recognition or the instruction of the core or main our refuge, object of refuge, that is different.
건너태야지 이무도 대바스리가 스콜로 가리나 미존에 발려게 있어야 될 말에서 코 제바 제네 코 파로포드 밀루와 레드나 이체 제사 되게 돼서.
So here also that when we teach about this faith, and sometimes we may misunderstand about the definition about faith. So this faith, it is in here that when we teach in this scripture, the faith, it is not just talking merely faith or just close your eyes and then just go believe in someone. It is not talking about that. It is talking about based on one's investigations or kind of like a thorough, the scrutinized about the object to whom one may going to have a faith and refuge. First, investigate, scrutinize about the object, and then based on that scrutinization, and then whatever the result you found, if you see that object as infallible, then have belief on that object. That's what the faith, the definition of faith here, it's talking about. And likewise, that when we introduce that you need to have a faith, is not necessarily that we need to bow down or homage or pay prostrations. And then also we need to treat that the other as a kind of like the minister and oneself is like a servant. And that's not the case.
So,
and main or the core when we kind of like recommending to have a faith means you need to have a belief or a trust. And then the paying homage and prostrations and reverencing those objects high, these are actually branches of faith. The main faith, its core, it has to have this belief, sense of belief. That's called the faith. And rest of other are method or skills or branches to have the show a faith.
그 벤치 사와 있는 벤치 팽이에서 이게 되면 아주 벤치 사유 말아. 나는 그거야 이거 말아.
And that is actually very truth, according to the what happening within our day-to-day life. For instance, when we sick, that if we don't have trust and belief in that pill, the medicine, then we will not going to eat that pill.
어때도 찍을 때 이거를.
And similar like this way, it is talking about the
그치
faith.
손이 좀 되는 혼을 안 피하니 얘네 쳐라 타르비 탑인지 타바론에다가 히바지 이 쳐라 타바 루폰데 히어다 근데 타바 루마로서 청을 알아려면 이게 제지였으면 히어.
And therefore, even Shakyamuni Buddha himself, that he taught this, that I shown the path of liberations to you. So then, whether you accomplish these liberations or not, it's completely depend on yourself. That's what he said in Sutra, that he never admit or declare that I can lead and protect you from this, the kind of like leads towards liberations. That, but I can show the method or the skill how one can approach and reach to liberations. That definitely I can do it. And after that, whether you accomplish liberation or not, it's completely depend on yourself.
일단 해봐. 언제 점내돼 해봐라고 하고 그랬어.
So this, therefore, this Shakyamuni Buddha is like a doctor.
그 나댕에 루제댕에 때라 डॉक्टर के मैं गाड़ी के फेंगे हुए पर मैं देते रहे मैं दिस्तान ने छोड़ों के तक वो होते हैं सेवा नहीं जे माजे तो सब नासा ते ठाम आ रहा थे सोसोरानो राले बारे में तो मैं बात देखी जे मैं इसके बारे में
So likewise, that as how Shakyamuni Buddha mentioned, this metaphor or the example exactly works same way. That, for instance, when we sick, that doctor, what doctor can really do for us is to show the right medicine and the right way of eating and all those time and behave. And then after guiding all this, then whether the real in order to cure that the ill or not, it's that whether one follow his guideline or not, whether we take all the pills proper as how he instructed or not, it depends on that.
산지 군조서야 돼. 샵던 거 빼는가도 한칸이를 땡겨는 멤버들 약고 임바지다. 그 나도 소식 나사들 팬들 팬들 두고 저 여봐 이게 제거가 이제는 산지 군조라 이게 리친 제거를
And so therefore, that how we should have a faith or belief in Buddha, it is just like that normally, that how that in order to get a proper and correct, unmistaken pill and medicine, and the first we need to have a trust and belief on the doctor, that this doctor is very professional, expert on checking all those the what you call illness or diseases. That we need to have some sort of like a confident on that doctor. Likewise here, Shakyamuni Buddha and those Buddhas are just like a doctor, that how we should have a faith in Buddhas is that we should have belief and faith that they will able to guide us or give us the unmistaken, genuine pill, authentic medicine. That belief, sense of belief, we need to have towards the Buddhas, that the among the triple gem, the first one, the Buddha.
제가 아마도 예시로부터도 주로 양이라 근데 이제 그 번복지게 내리제도 야 소소 보내 야반에도 야반에도 마반에도
So therefore, So therefore, that according to the Buddhism, the way of introducing this triple gem, and then the way of introducing this dharma, it's not something like those another religious, such as Christians, that it seems like some uh, kind of like the leader or the minister, that what according to that leader's wishes, if he wants someone to put higher, and he can promote him to the higher positions, and then if he dislike, he can kind of like a, what do you call it, that opposite of promotion, huh? Demote those persons who they dislike. And this Christian way of describing this God is very much like that. So that's completely different way of introducing the Dharma or the triple gem here.
그때나 이전에 gengi kunjo 생에 되나서 명강기 뭐가 아니 그 디제트에서 차와다니 디제트에서 그 대단 참이지 칼라페니 그 아도 전에 나스 나이 전에 이 gengi kunjo 되게 소소년들의 최도로 전에 근데 그 소소다 참바 최대수 따로 제 모델 제 대단 참바기 이런
And then likewise this third triple gem, which is Sangha. The Sangha is similar like in hospitals, those nurses that who are supporting to those patients, and then who will help and give all those medicines on time and supports, and whatever they kind of like needed those patients, they will try to provide all the facilities, isn't it? So similar like that way, the Sangha, that who are helping or supporting us to work together and move or kind of like a step on those spiritual path together, and kind of like the company, they will help us the way of company to go towards that directions.
이제 당한테 고조선의 이 지지도 간의 제거였으나 또 소수 과학의 동아들 다르고 비타와 제발라 내다 명호가 장고 내다 명호가 장호사게 탐마트 가르되었으나 최고조들 레디스 이제 비가서 자선 로사 이체산 응원에 탑두바로부터 아니 최고조들 레디스.
So therefore, for us here, what we are kind of like seeking is the liberate oneself or the free oneself from the difficulties, and specifically psychological existence. So that in order to achieve that goal or the aim, then who can really provide us this liberation is the triple gem in general, and then particularly the ultimate protections is the Dharma.
근데 되게 최대 나로 저게 하고하지만 되게 최대 모델 중에 아니 만으로와 만추가 모델 중에데 단지 구조 레는 이 지리가 선제 구조데 그 만으로와 땡이 많이 지금.
And this is the one belief and faith, main or core in Dharma. So, and then after that, then that kind of Dharma, which is the skill or the methods to solve all those difficulties, that kind of skill and method genuinely who can really guide us or who can really show us is the Buddha. So that when we go to the faith and believe towards Buddha, then we need to go faith and believe with that sense. And we need to believe Buddha is kind of like a person who can guide us the unmistaken path.
어떤 이제 당연히 그 야반은 이제 소소 남기가 전에 좀 많아 뒤에 가리네 로바 진이 들어가 나기 전에 되나 이제 가리다 보니 좋아이나 정보지 남의 로바 진이 들고 뭐 되나 이제 전에 맞서 남나 전에 뒤 저기 남의 제거도 니지 그 갖고 로바 진이 들어가 나기 이치 들어가 나기 내 괜히 그저때 근데 그 로바 진이 이바라 로바 진이나 근데 밀로와 만나와 이바 니 제거
And then likewise to the Sangha, that how we really need to have a faith and belief in Sangha is that the having a sense of those Sanghas are infallible source of companion or the friends. And that's what we need to have a really faith towards Sangha. Just like as I mentioned earlier, that how in the hospitals that one should have a little bit sense of confidence and belief on those nurses. And likewise, on the other examples, that when we try to train how to drive the cars, and then we also need to depend on our friends as a companion or supporter to guide us or kind of like the helps boost us to how to drive properly
나도 저기 가서 맞춰게
for the temporary support.
저기 가서 최고 조대 소소 그 동아들들은 문에 장례 있자만 나와 있다. 근데 이체 받아. 근데 선제 군조대 대땡해 만나와 있다. 이체 받아. 괜히 군조대 소소 최대 그룹이 가서네. 근데 로바 징에 만나와 있다. 이체 받아. 군조선에 이체 좋겠어.
So in short, and how one should have faith and belief in Triple Gem is that towards Dharma, what we need faith, what we need belief is that this Dharma is the ultimate protections who can help us to eliminate and lay low all this source of difficulties, which is karma and affective emotion and so on, that we need to have that belief in Dharma. And then that kind of skill or instruction or the method, and who will able to show unmistakably or authentically is those Buddhas. So we need to have a belief in Buddha in that way, that the how to say, viewing them as the unmistaken guidance. And then towards Sangha, that we need to have a belief towards Sangha, that Sangha can really help and support us to move and on the work on the spiritual path properly. So in order to implement all those Dharma practice properly, that Sangha can support us, or Sangha can help us to move together. And that in that sense, we need to have a belief and faith in Sangha.
그치 어디 가서 나야 밀리시장에 있는 세대 가서라. 어떤 얘기 이체 이 땡해만 나와 있다. 이 장면에 밀로와 있다. 아니 이 들어봐 쟁에 밀로와 있다. 되게 돈에 벌써 손에 이체서 와 있나? 밀로기 시장에 타도 말이야.
So here,
나야 딱들에 놓고
so infallible source of refuge, that this is what it means. And the infallible source of refuge to Dharma, we need to have that sense that Dharma is the main protectors. And then Buddha as the who will show these protections. And then the Sangha is who will support us to get all these protections properly. So in this, if we have belief in Triple Gem in this way, and this will never going to fail. So therefore, it is saying here, are infallible source of refuge. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are infallible source of refuge, who will never let you down.
손이 좀 전에 얘기했지만 다시 가슴에도 같았잖아요. 그 랑게 딱딱 된 투문도 나는 이기만.
For instance, that no matter how much we investigate or scrutinized about the Buddha, like Shakyamuni, that no one will able to say or even predict that what Buddha shown the path, that path is incorrect. Likewise, Dharma and Sangha are similar. So here, and then next he talking about in the immeasurable awakened quality of source of refuge. Here, what does it mean, immeasurable? So for instance, that if we talk about the quality of Buddhas, such as knowing everything as it is, and the knowing all the causes and conditions of the phenomena properly, and so on, this kind of characteristic or the qualities of the Buddhas are very immeasurable. Likewise, the characteristic or the quality of the Dharmas has also the same way, like unfathomable qualities, and then Sangha as well. So if we talk all those the qualities, that whatever all those three object, the object of refuge, those triple gem possessed or endowed, this is some sort of like a beyond talkable. So this is why it is talking about immeasurable. And then that's why it is next, it's saying always have faith and devotions. So that when anyone who have a faith and this reverence or honoring, it's automatically comes. So with this, what we complete is that, as mentioned above, this the object of belief, three of them, so triple gem, and then the truth, and then the law of causalities. So this stanza, what it complete is the why and how, kind of like in a little bit elaborate with the rational way or the reason that why need to have a sense of belief in that first object of our belief, which is triple gem, in a little bit elaborate way. And then next one, the fruit of our positive and negative actions will never go away on their own without ripening. Therefore, if you love and care about your own self, carefully attend to the law of karma by practicing virtue and abandoning non-virtue. And so, and then after that, as above mentioned, the object of our belief or faith are three, right? So second one is actually the truth, or we can say Four Noble Truth. But this Four Noble Truth or the truth is not elaborated here. And why it is not elaborating about the mentioning about the our object of belief truth, that especially Four Noble Truth. It is because if we talk about this Four Noble Truth, then uh, when we talk about Four Noble Truth, and it will go into more talk about the what you call the spiritual, more serious on a spiritual topic. So here we are mainly focusing on the worldly point of view or mundane advice. So therefore, it is the second object of our belief is not really elaborated.
Dinima, also Nitem Miluam, Nitem Yonta Bikatsu Gon Cheswana, and Ledre La Icheva, Kachi Tower, which is the Lima, Jefferson Shivaris.
So, and then from here, that it's elaborating the third object of our belief or our faith, which is law of causality. That law of causality is according to the mundane point of view, or according to the worldly right, we can say the right view according to the worldly. So right view according to the mundane or the worldly is mainly has to have this confident or this belief in law of causalities. So therefore, it is mentioning, elaborating about this law of causality.
Nitem Milu on Chibiki, our Money she Tatubasana, word the Karesana, Nidin Jimmy Baki, China Neja, Yonda Talate, Conjus on the Lama Chevatan, Conjus on the Ichi Yunga Chevata, Yonda Tawas at the Legion of the
So
then on the Tawate, Lindin and Chivate. What the thing you did when you then look on the Chivita Tatu.
So based on a mundane point of view, the ultimate or the most important view or the belief is this one, the law of causalities. So this having faith and belief in law of causality, it is called the worldly right view. The worldly right view means the mundane right view or the worldly right view, same way. Anyway, so what does it mean is that having belief and faith, belief or faith here in law of causalities, that's the very ultimate kind of like achievement of based on a mundane kind of like a view. That is the highest view of the mundane. Therefore, Kunjin Jigmelingba, the omniscient Jigmelingba, also said that the Kimlan Neja Yandatala de Kunjusumla Lamar Cheba means, so that what the Rizin Jigmelingba he mentioned is that Kimlan Neja Yandatala is that even the persons who are lay and staying and being housekeeper, or being an ordinary person, but yet if the person has this worldly right view or the mundane right view, which means that mainly having belief in karma, in short, law of causality, that's what it means. And then the another one, Kunjan Jimelimba also said that persons who reverence or having confidence and faith in Triple James. So person who have these two views, and that is the ultimate or the highest achievement according to the mundane kind of like a mundane dharma or the worldly dharma. So therefore, how this omniscient Jigmelingba pointed out to the ordinary being or the lay or householder in order to practice the spiritual, the highest view, what the lay practitioner can have is this too, having belief in triple gem and belief in law of causality. And same way here, Mepam Rinpoche also introducing to those lay practitioner that what the highest view or belief that what the ordinary beings can have is belief in triple gem and believe in law of causality.
그치디 당아서 이때 미나바이나 총선은 고카레이나는 이때 미나바지나야 디니 디게 군조선 라마체바다 농다비 렌데리케라 이치비기 농다비 따리 디야나 최단 망가와 이때 미루다 티비 소수기 미티케라 그선 소토가 따난다지 지레자와 차르거스.
So therefore, that even though we are being a lay, ordinary, and doing all this mundane chore and business and so on, but yet that within ourselves, if we have this true belief, this true view, and then that can really help us to not really oppose or contradict our attitude and behave with the spiritual, as well as that the engaging into all those business and mundane chores will fulfill our mundane responsible as well. So this will help us to have a very balance. And then person who kind of like the lay ordinary beings who have this two kind of the precious things within themselves, and then they will also gather all the divinities and glories, as Kunjin Jimelingba, the omniscient Jimelingba also mentioned, the person who having this true confident or faith within themselves, and then he kind of like ordered to those Dharma protectors that you Dharma protectors need to protect those type of persons. So here, this talking about the fruits of our positive and negative actions will never go away on their own without ripening. So, for instance, anyone who ever committed sorts of like non-virtuous actions, one of the non-virtuous actions, and then consequences of that act will not going to fade or disappear in the middle of the nowhere. It is never going to fade or disappear. Without one hand, without ripening, or other way, it's kind of like purifying or confessing. Then accept then this two, the kind of like a way, this whatever action one committed, it will never going to fade or disappear. So here mainly having belief in that is what it say, the having faith in law of causality. So since this law of causality or the karma is infallible, that it will never going to fade and disappear in the middle of the nowhere. So therefore, if one loves and care about oneself. Here, you. This is many of the translations I'm finding. Always you. Better to say I here now at this moment. Maybe we should uh, kind of like talk about self more here. Actually, it is really helping us to reduce self. When it is reducing self, and then they use instead of self, they're using you. Anyway, so therefore, if one cares about oneself, then carefully attend to the law of karma by practicing virtue and abandoning non-virtue.
근데 막 nene leche sayin nene parun devisa leche ron indi devisa bende bachi ane ko le gewa dobu bige ane sul tenglodes.
So next stanza, this present life is field of karma. So here again, your field of karma. After this, you will after this you will go to the place where your karma comes to fruition. Therefore, here and now, when I have the chance or freedom, when I have the chance, I plant seed of virtue.
다 nene leche sayin la sidi kasone tanda ki tsendete ane les abi tika bayes gewa sanaysa megewa sanaysa naso ke les abi tika bayes.
So this present life is filled of karma. So here, sometimes I feel like this your is needed in English language. But according to the, if they literally translate it, there's a no yours or I either. This is obviously all talking based on advising who are listener, right? So anyway, so this present life is filled of karma, which means while we are alive at this moment, and this is the very kind of like a moment that gathering or accumulating all sorts of karmas, right or wrong or good or bad or neutral whatsoever.
근데 바로 리비스야 되니까 제 느끼기 바로 저 치마나 아니 레벨 노이 대가 타사데 되니 소식 라발이요 말.
So after this, we'll go to the place where karma comes to the fruition, which means that once we died and once we leave this body, that human form, and then when we go to the next life, that next life is the moment that the fruition of our action, it's going to be ripened. So at that moment, there's no any control, nothing one can do. That is the moment of fruitions. So fruitions will going to decide whatever it needs to experience.
대체를 라마 인디들 있어요. 근데 대치나 근데 단다 레스 아비기 뒤가 레 지비 뒤가 인디 근데 소토라 라마 이래서 레 개발도나 소토라 라마 이래 림베 개발 사바이나 소토라 라마 이래 제가 치만로 타서만 근데 아마 가르쳐는 뒤그 레 가르면 따대야 또 라마 이래 디지 가서 단다 소소 레 개발도나 메 개발도나 소식 라발라 라마 예디들라 아니 그 개발방 같은 진이 기위 사변 같이 이나야 도토도 지고.
So therefore, here and now, when have the chance or freedom, that so what it means, therefore, at this moment, while we are a human, that we have all this opportunity and freedom and overpower or control, that whatever karma we want to create, we can create it, either good or bad, whatsoever, we can create it. And once we leave this human body behind, means after die, then that moment is the kind of like a ripening fruition of our past action. So that is laid to shape or modified. So therefore, it is saying at this moment we have 100% opportunity and control to whatever karma that one wants to create.
이제 맞게 아니 하마까지 다디 릴레티스 치마 간주 다디 레레티스 나만 나로도 가르쳐야 돼 아버지 누가 제가 다디게 리텐디게 소소도 롱소 주반주 통마당 가래 있는 데도 따나 하고 또 그래 나도 단다 가리 누구도 무대하는 하기요 그래서 두리는 따야 막 통따야 막 로카르 따야 막 마야 따야 막 다나 가야 봐 돼야 돼 제마 때문에 가래 있는데 단다 나서게 소소게 레스나 나와 있는
So, as also saying in this, we have saying in Tibetan that Ngamakachi Tadilulatus, that what in a previous, what have been done, that we can understand by watching our own body. And the future, where we will going to go, that we can, what it comes, or where we go, or what it comes in the future, that one can examine or understand by watching one's own behavior and attitude, or one's own actions, what we are doing. And so therefore, that this is something in Tibetan that we have saying in normal conversations. So therefore, that whatever one done, whatever what we have in order to understand what I have been done in a previous, that I can examine through investigating what I have now, my body and my position, reputation, health, or wealth, or everything, whatever I have right now, it is proving what I have been done in a previous. So this now I cannot change much. But in the future, what it comes or where I goes, that 100% I can shift, I can modify it.
제치기 가서는 담기 기저 소소 레사비 디감데라 내 간데치 싸면 라와 예디데라 레레레 시몰 싸면 하나네 고 개와 두비아다 디바 포인트 레레 랑가데라 마추가 제리 가슴 타고레스.
So therefore, and after understanding all this informations or knowledge, then we need to scrutinize upon this law of causalities and then try to follow accordance or properly.
나도 시행이 되도 니즈니 레이 대마마에 대해서 수치 내내스타면 지요스. 아 인가르마 시르포네 레레스탄거바 손지기 숨라 군두니 비게바.
And then the next stanza, that look at the different beings and their happiness and suffering. The cause of this is said to be their karma. The truth-speaking one clearly said this: nobody invented karma, cause and effect. So now this stanza, actually, what is advising is the kind of like a based on taking reference from the Buddha, that how he declared about this, all this experience whatsoever we are having, that what's the really reason behind. So look at the different beings and their happiness and suffering. What does it mean? That there's so much things going around within us, that among the people, when we look into that is how someone experiencing happiness and someone suffering, and when someone's facing difficulties and sorrows or grief, and someone's experiencing pleasure, pleasant, and succeed. And there are so many, and also likewise that the someone who have a very good looking body and someone who doesn't have a good looking body, and the right, wrong, good, bad, and beautiful, ugly, and all this kind of varieties that we can see. It is kind of like the kind of unfathomable varieties are there.
네 저기 레이스 근데 그게 뭐라 아마데 소수기시아는 이게 네 레이티기 레브니라데 손직 숨이레스 데마카와스니까 손직 숨마레스.
The cause of this is said to be their karma. The truth is speaking one clearly said this. So this, that even though the fruition, its variety and unfathomable, many differences are exist out there, but yet that all this, the reason, the behind, the reason or the source is the karma, the law of causality. That is the one is producing all this variety, unfathomable difference. And who has said that? And that is truth speaking. So the truth is speaking here refers to Buddha. So the Buddha is considering as a truth speaking. So truth speaking clearly said this or declared that.
지디가서 소소 마음발라 이시와 치마이나에 마음비기 밑에 놓아야 대완다 기보다 상보 표정 소바기 연연등이 있으나 힘이나야 근데 레존데 랑도다 레존데 스탄도 같이는 땅이 말이야 땅 그와지 예바로 땅 그와지
So therefore nobody invented karma, cause and effect. So, or that who will not contemplate on karma. So that's what Nibbana is saying, that therefore whoever wish themselves to have the success and fortune and happiness, and why not contemplating upon karma, must contemplate and careful about law of causality.
이때 미나바세그로 하는 이때 미나바지 온통송아이나 본조 손나마 제야다 린딜레 이체가 빈이 그냥 많추나 아니 소심 밑에다가 이나인다 저 치마나 이나인다 누구 미용하지 키다가
So based on talking this advice, according to the ordinary being or the lay practitioner, so the main or the core two things that what ordinary or the lay practitioner should have is these two things, that having belief in triple gem and believing in law of causalities. That if anyone has these two sources or these two wealth, then that person will never going to experience difficulties within life or even for the next life. So the now next stanza, in the three jewels and in the four truth. Whoever has found the faith of belief and trust, this is supreme discovery, Emma, the noble fruit of merit. So that is now concluding this theme.
denba gile yiki bi denba de so chi gile ni ba je soin na ane chi tawa ani kase borta chi so chi gile je ge ya ki chudo chuba de chabi yo es chi de kas ema sen yan sen bi chi da ke de ta de lo je ga ba de 제가 아마 처럼 먹어라 손음 싸게 하지 제보를 맞도 대가 정하고 지 남루로 주네 얘기다 그거 손다 된다 이제 내내 이치라기 이 레토 말해서
So right after describing that how one should have confidence or determination about law of causality, and then it is talking about also in addition we need to have confident and determinant upon having belief in triple gems and four noble truth. So whoever has found the faith of belief and trust upon these three things, and whoever gain the obtain these three kind of like a certaintyness or firmness, and this is the supreme discovery within their life, and that is why it is used this Emma. This word is the exquisite word. It is showing this how exquisite is it that one able to find these three things within one life. So, and that kind of founding, which is the called considered as the noble fruit, and this kind of noble fruit is something not founded by kind of like a randomly or kind of like a luckily abruptly you are founded. It is not like that. The person whoever found these three things within themselves, it is completely showing and indicating that the person has accumulated great deal of merit in the past, and this is the some sort of like a fruitions of one's own merit. So, and that and the whoever gain or obtain these three things within themselves, and that is the greatest things that we could found within our life.
다디게 메토드 취연소 비게 네 체제디기 라니나 담보도 치말해서
So with this now what we complete is the like a flower to the tree, that what characteristics, those two type of characteristic, faith and what do you call it? What is that? Faith and what is that? Faith and generosity. So first one, it's complete here. And then now the second characteristic which required in order to become a good or kind person is the generosity. So then the stanza, it begins with, even though one are attached, even though oneself, here again you are, even though you are or oneself attached to one's own positions, your positions, helplessly one will or you will have to leave them all behind when one passed from this life. Instead, if one can give rise to a spirit of generosity, one will accomplish all perfect wishes in this and future life. So here actually should be one self. This is now really, even in the Tibetan text, it has one self, but still they're translating you, I don't know why. And this first stanza is the kind of like a briefly describing the reason why we need to engage into generosity activities.
다 롱쉐 총죠 오메시 되는 거다 너 소소라 노롱쉐 저놈 아담 같이 여바 있나야 아니 실로이 니모라 쿨로야게 왕세나 니바도 여마레스 슈도 유도레스.
And this is what it means, that how much oneself may have all this wealth and possessions and whatsoever, and at the time of the death, and then one must leave everything behind.
대치디 가서라 소소게 네 한짐바 동양게 동페비게 로데야 가서 지 축제 네고 소소를 예바든지 강투도 이제 한짐바 동양이나 챈들라야 네고 비송소와 민그레라 제가 치마나야 네 비송소가 비송민그레스.
So therefore, instead, I would say, if when one have all this wealth, and then if one able to generate the sense of bountiful, or generate the sense of willing to give to others, and if one able to generate that, that will help us to able to engage into generous activity. When one able to engage into generous activity, and through that actions, the consequences that one can experience even within this life, excellent life, and then also the future life, one can experience the excellent as well.
안들이마 제브르시바 벨라야 네고 지바 마동디기 니미디기 거레스.
And then now, after that, it is a little bit elaborating all the reasons. So from here, what it is talking about, the next stanza is talking about the fault of not being able to generate that sense of bountiful or sense of willing to give, and then not engaging into generous activity.
봉아 총양 내부지 롱셰 체양 펜바키 먼저 임벤더 주자 니마지나 치마고.
So even small giving yields great results. Is it yields? Even small giving yields great result. Even great enjoyment and possession bring little benefit. That you may be rich in this life because of practicing generosity in one's previous life. But if one do not practice generosity in this life, one will be poor in the next life.
다들 가르세거스나 제가 말라 소소게 고 지마 충충지 동자가 되게 제부터 전부 차지는 챈들라 소소롱시 전부 차대가 있나요? 아니 챈들라 지마 마동아 있나? 배도 대전 거 말했어.
And what it is saying, although that we are at the moment we are having or becoming rich, being rich and possessing all those wealth and very well, it is out of result of our small giving in the past. Yet, if one unable to engage into generous activity in this life, then the one will going to become poor.
배가 충분히 간들에서나 먼저 지마 동자비 정신을 때니 네 저바 전부 차바 있나야. 챈들라 소소 영차 뭉튀는 지마 마동이나 제가 지말라 소소 올고 차도 대체도 챈들라 여비기 놀롱셔게 펜포 마스마스.
So how that the whatever we have wealth, it's not really helped to oneself is This is all because we engage into generosity activity in the past. Likewise, if one uh, unable to engage at this moment, like previous, into the generosity activity, then all this wealth, whatever we have, it doesn't really help.
대장도 맞으니다. 그 이마 소소 놀러 시시랑 남아는 그 동아 디스지비 전전에 된 첸델은 놀러 시 처음 해봐이나. 아니 디 이마다 뭐 마땅한 진의 소소 그 사냐로 제대로 인상이나. 아니 사비기 예바, 수미기 예바, 라바이 놀라다 예바 뭐 이어래서.
And not only that,
사다 손도 라바이 놀라 예바 힘도 사기 뭐 저거는 제일도 보면 좋습니다.
And not only that, also the fault of not engaging into generosity activity and being stingy and just collecting everything and accumulating and storaging inside that money and wealth from which we suffer over amassing, guarding, and losing has incredibly tremendous wise attached to it, even if the earth were covered with money and wealth, the greed of being would still not be satisfied. And that's the showing not only that, but also the further force of not being able to engage into generosity activity and being stingy.
디지털 솔루션 하마라 소소 아니 지마티스 오미전전에 텐들라 놀러 셰트디 코르위야나야 아니 디코 베셰 텐들라 지마통라서 베셰 마통바치니 베셰 야고지 마통을 와스 마통이나 이게 소소로 두마테데 창고로.
So even though that one engaged in the previous into generous activity, and therefore at the moment one may have some wealth, but if we fail to utilize all this wealth or spend out in a proper way, then instead of gaining benefit from having the wealth to oneself, instead actually one face great deal of difficulties by having that wealth. So, but anyhow, when we talk about this, that when we're introducing this previous generosity is the source of present wealth. When we talk about this kind of law of causality, karma, and also one on the side note that one must need understand is that all the result or fruitions and depend on cause and conditions, which means it is depend on a previous our action as well as the present condition too. So if the person doesn't have any source or kind of like a karma, that storage in the past of engaging into generous activity, and when person lack of that cause, then in the present the person, no matter how much the person is wise, intelligent, smart, and then kind of like the what do you call it, competence, right? Competence, yet the no matter whatever they try to accumulate or gather the wealth, and they always fail in their kind of like the process. So therefore, if one doesn't have a cause accumulated in the past, the karma, then these conditions alone cannot do anything. And then on the other hand, some persons and not much wise, intelligent and smart, but still that kind of like a unnoticingly or kind of like a automatically and able to gather all the wealth. And that kind of the being able to collect or gather all the wealth, it is not something it will going to come even we don't put effort at this moment. So anyway, and then here it talks about the money and wealth from which we suffer over amassing. Uh, kind of amassing, yes. Amassing is kind of like a gathering, right? Collecting. So amassing. So which is something that normally we kind of like experiencing that if when one have some wealth, if one unable to utilize properly for oneself and or for the being able to offer to the those high reverenceable object like a triple gem, and then to the kind of like a beggar, those poor who need it, that the giving and supporting to them. And when one unable to utilize one's wealth in this way and just kind of like a amassed or just collect and storage, and then whole day work so hard to make money and wealth. And then all these are just out of stingy storaging within one's home, let's say home, instead of utilizing properly. Then that really wealth itself is becomes conditioned for oneself to kind of like a suffer or the face difficult of amazing, amazing, amazing. So instead of kind of like a wealth, the creating some pleasant, that wealth is creating unpleasant to oneself, and that is the one fault of not being able to engage into generosity activities of with the having wealth. Likewise, and the unpleasant experience of the guarding the wealth, that which is something like that. The also one when one help storage a lot of wealth, And then it also brings that concern or worry that may those powerful than oneself, may they come, or may robbers come and then rob all this wealth, or may thief comes and steal all this monies and wealth, some sort of like that kind of worry will going to bring by storing wealth or not utilizing properly. And that also brings that kind of worry as well. That's the another fault of uh, kind of having wealth with the not utilizing properly.
지난해는 라비기 네가 세비가서 너로시 자청부 때문에 라베스 게야마 이 자청부야 이 텔라야노고 샤야노 때문에 좋으면 소소도 나쁘게.
Likewise, the fault of losing. So, if one doesn't have much wealth, and if one doesn't storage the wealth, then there's no worry about losing at all. That this worry or the suffer of the difficult of the losing, it comes when one storage all of them without utilizing in a proper way.
디지털가스라 아니 너로시 여바데 비셰 야부지 땅에 이말 나서 같은 마땅하이나 망고 여바데 그 소로 도만 주제레스.
So therefore, in short, that having all this wealth but not being able to utilize properly is the cause and conditions to punish oneself.
그래서 사기 너지 코나에 쉐윈다 방법이 줄. 아주 그 미센데 가서 나중에 나도 히에서는 미센 동발라 온주메라는 이유에서 디지털가스는 내거 사기 단계 너를 코네 더블리 답원을 총수만이야. 다들 소소 근데가 중요한 말이야.
And even if the earth were covered with the money and wealth, the greed of being would still not be satisfied. And that's something that we have seen in Tibetan, that we have seen in Tibetan that the human's mind is emptiness, it will never going to fill it. So that we have said in Tibetan. So what does it mean? That our this greedy mind, it's very vast and very huge container and will not be able to filled up by all this wealth, which means not being able to satisfy it no matter how much one have.
디지털가스는 나서 그 세다 그런 노르노셔 카레 여바이나. 근데 그 비셰 야부지 마땅하이나 아니 그 사야 세그 네마탄기 하면 파마 팬이도 나주세요. 소소 사야 세단 그냥기 그 아니 대사기 네마 대점라 비셰 방향기 단 롱셔 데레마도 데레 합이기 같은 거 같이 여바이나요. 그리고 지 네더 멤버기 비셔야 아버지 마동었으나 근데 대전 총마도 소소라 팬 프로젝트 많이 받치네 네 동아대 이제 그 단다사야는 이제 스타비기 동아대 동이기 동아대 라비기 동아대 동아도 주주로 그러고 소소 그 대신이야 잘 말해서 나도 너는 어셔도 또 방금 가르 방문이었으나 소소 그 젠데다 치마다 대신이야 주지야 방금
And then next stanza, you need only food, money, and place to sleep. Anything beyond this, no benefit, and is a cause of suffering. So yes, this basic kind of like facilities for our survival, which is needed, very much needed, this like called like the food and shelter, right? Those basic things, that the clothes, yeah. So here, okay, somehow they translated money, but there's no money here in this Tibetan. Tibetan word, what it has is what in order for us to survive, what basic needs is the food, clothes, and shelter. So the food, clothes, and shelter, other than these three wealth, whatever we have extra, if one unable to utilize properly, then it is all the cause of suffering. As how I mentioned earlier, that the other than these three wealth and whatever extra wealth we may have, and then plus if we are fail to utilize properly, then all the above difficulties or the suffering will going to give by wealth, such as we just mentioned, like amazing, guarding, and losing, and all this kind of the worries given by having this wealth, the all this extra. And also we have saying in Tibetan that if um, one have a wealth, the amount or the size of uh, God animal, the God, good, God, not God, okay? Not, I'm talking about the God, the God, G-O-A-T. Anyway, if the person has the size or the amount of wealth is like a God size, then a person will going to have the difficulties of God size. If the person has the wealth, the amount or the size of horse, then the person will going to have the worry and difficulties the same size as horse. So however, it is this way, and whatsoever if anyone fail to utilize the wealth properly, then this kind of consequences or experience will going to be happen. So the lenni so until here, those above two stanza and this two line, which is like you need only food, money, and place to sleep. Anything beyond this is no benefit and is a cause of suffering. Until here, then above two stanza, it is all described in a little bit elaborate the fault of and like having wealth and being unable to utilize properly. And then after this talks about the benefit or potential of being able to engage into generosity activity. So no, and by giving in this and in future lives, wealth will increase extensively like a summer rain. By giving, longevity and fame increased. By giving, glory and happiness increase. Even though it is in fact giving that is the door of enrichment. Being worried that by giving they will deplete themselves.
소소라 노론셰 티지샤 마마사야비 제바콘비 긴데부 노론셰 티지야바이나 첸딜라야 아니 고 강투도 제바콘 야바이나 첸딜라야 원샤 노론셰 충코야
So,
융그레스
so what it is saying here that by giving in this and future lives, wealth will increase intensively like a summer rain. And when the oneself and the when we oneself have this fruition of generosity means some wealth. Having wealth within oneself, proving that one engaged into generous activity before, that's for sure. So having this fruition of generosity within oneself, which means wealth, and then again utilizing properly means engaging into generosity. Mm, that brings back increasing all those wealth again more.
근데 배나 약하게 주대 잡아주는 야 레벨이야 체체체체로 나왔나 이제는 근데 그 소소비 노론셰 야 패는 거였어요.
Like a summer rain, that in the summer when so much rain fall, that all those rivers are going to flood. It will going to become so full. And likewise, that when one have a fruition of generosity, wealth, and then if we able to utilize properly by engaging into generosity, then it will increase like a summer rain, how increasing the waters.
근데 맞아 벤체 빼면 그랬어. 그냥 아주 좀 붙이는 거냐. 가생 마마 맞아 그게 해다왔나 이 소소는 공부하다 까마도 되니까 그러면 사바티 제주 밀레트 야네. 근데 그 소소 그 가래 여바때 그 세남에 봤던 밀레파 파기도 파는데 동체는 방에 봐있나. 방이 좀 코고야 돼. 그 진비게 다 디긴 레고 그 노란진 사례.
So as I mentioned earlier, that this kind of example are actually so many. For instance, if you look one example, as I mentioned earlier, that our late holiness, I said it, even though he himself doesn't have enough material to cover his own house, and but still he will going to give all these bricks to other person who need it. And that when the person's able to give all this with the sincerely, means not having any sense of stingy or holding back, completely letting it go. If when able to engage into that kind of generosity, then the increasing wealth back, it is some sort of like the way of generosity works. It is kind of like a natural.
지당 단다 어다 들리라고 제네 코 간지 코 파공해야 될 같이 놓고야나 숨어야 될 대던 용대하는 많이 그래서
So, however, it is so natural and so as it is that as much as one have braveness to let it go everything, that much it will going to come back.
제가 저기 밑에 놓는 제대야 좀 붙여놓은 거나 카리네야 지기야 처박히네 막 이마 보는 데 자 친구들만 충주들을 쌓는 చాలా 많잖아요 그래서
And that kind of example that we have seen to our own led holiness, that no matter whatever he do related with the offering to the honorable person or triple James, or to the poor beggars, that whatever he gives, that whenever he does all this activity, it does kind of like a bountiful in a very vast way, and not something like a very, it's something like a giving it, but not really being able to giving completely. And he never behaved like that way. Whenever he needs to engage into generosity, he just do in a very bountiful way and very vast and big. And therefore, that the as how he's doing in similar way, and then it's all returning back to him as in the same way.
Dina ichine tongwe che da traba pes ta ko jiba ka che tongwa ina che ya rin do ba ye traba da pha yin ba tongwe pa da dewa pe tongwa ni pe ko ani da jiba tongwa me la pa yong ko ka che yana de ko che min ko ya ina ne de ni me ki ta chi ko traba ina ne de long shot chung ko ya ina sa ma de ni yu mai cha we sa.
So here, by giving longevity and fame increase, and definitely fame, for sure, obviously we can see it. The person who is being very generous, the reputation or the fame will going to be kind of like a gain. And likewise, by giving glory and happiness increase, and likewise also those wealth, it will kind of like a naturally gathering or collecting back to the person who is able to engage. And even though it is in fact giving that is the door of enrichment.
인제 시오 세바토스다 대물라 아니 짐바 까야다 노론셔 코레니 버데 하카데 돈 소고냐지 이바이나야 니 마초 즉 세나세아 기타 냐몬티기 야만도 조르체네 니 라네 거서나 켈마도 체네 티지야 요데 사데 니 묘루 우루 쪼쪼 로야지 또 라이에 스마트 차도.
And in fact, and the source of all those glory, happiness, longevity, fame, and increasing wealth, it's actually the generosity. But yet, the out of our stinginess, out of our habit of holding back, and that force us to not being able to engage into this kind of activities. And the even though then we also kind of like a doubt or being worried that by giving they will deplete themselves instead of increasing. So in fact that's completely wrong. But however, out of our strong habits that we worry in this way.
티치디가스 때나 좀 매장 같이 제대가 있나요? 놀러 실자 첨부지 유무토 앞에 소속의 생명의 동생 첨부지 좀 레드 사마서야 좀 생각합니다.
So therefore, that no matter how much we put effort, not being able to success or not being able to gather or collect so much wealth, it is all because of that lacking of that sense of bountiful, lacking of that sense of willing to let it go. And when we lack that, that is missing the cause of being wealthy. So now time is up, so we may stop here.
Okay.
Okay, so now Khenpo saying, if you have question, you may ask. In order to do so, you can unmute yourself. If not, then we will dedicate and rest.
Good afternoon, Kempola, Tukudawa, and everyone. I am just wondering, when one has wealth and one, can be generous and, offer to others. When one finds oneself in a situation, so one has no income coming in. So one has to be very careful how to still practice generous nature, like not to be silly and just say, oh, I'll just, give everything I have away, but without abiding in that fear of not having enough. And so when one has more, one can give more. When one has less, how to offer with wisdom.
너 너도 들뭐 디 짐바기 레라 슈야데라 아니 디치 센테 용도스 아 짐비 레라 슈야세데 아니 소소기 용밥당 아니 뒤에 띵고 말베스 아니 짠에 마트네 소소라 가요바디 지 가이나 인 사마테슈세데 이나 yang sosogi nebab tune ani di so wisdom se de sula namchue yang peche tane ni sosola ga yoba de jimba tane joyagi thalom chiyanas
jimba de chidang ke ngaso ke pena ji ya control chuka pia ke cheto pen hido da jiwa ni da metoda da jiwa ni 강리야야지 예약 타겟도야 비약 타겟도야 아니 말 동거는 이마도 참 담을 동안이나요 바로 보다 잠재지 그 남주리하고 이제 시작한 이하고지 바로 그샘 햄버진 돼야 많이는 맞아 근데 지하의 개정벌 또 이마사도 소소 수 창의다 생각 인정 많이 봐 타기도 봐 똥샘
and in general that whatever we may offer or give to others, for instance when we offer to Triple James, then yes, it is best, it is good that to get the substance, whatever we want to offer, the best quality, the good quality one. And likewise, when we give to the others, also give with a sincerely and with a very nice way, and then talk nice to them, and then show nice expressions, and then also give in a very kind of like a proper way that which makes that other feel so good. And these things, yes, we need to try to do it. But anyhow, that however, the main point of engaging into generous activity is that whatever, there's a no limit of amount. So the amount, whatever one have, one can utilize that one. Then the amount doesn't make the generous or not generous. The main generous activity will complete when we engage into this kind of activity without holding anything back out of our with the stinginess. So not letting our mind bind out of stinginess and open that open that kind of like the bounded, right? Open that bounded. Yeah, open that the bounded by stingy, open that note, and then he kind of like raise the sense of whatever we are giving, completely letting it go from one's own mind, that whatever, for instance, if we're giving $1, that $1 completely let it go. And that is the main quality rather than quantity. That's the quality which requires in our generosity activities without having any expectations. So we have saying, without expectations, generous. We're saying that. So, which means that the unnoting that bind of stinginess and open that note, and then the completely letting it go without any hope or expectations. That is the main quality requires to complete generosity activity. And it is not distinguished or differentiated by amount.
Thank you. So if one, so whatever one offers, you know, to offer sincerely without, you know, bound in attachment and stinginess. And then on the other side, not to think, oh, this isn't enough. You know, like what I have to offer isn't enough. You know, that sometimes tarnishes the offer of generosity. So, tarnish means like, it's like a metal that has, it's not shiny anymore. It's all covered with, so it takes away from the pureness of it. It's the, I think it's the other side of being stingy, is also thinking, oh, what I have to offer is enough. Somebody else is offering so much more, and you know what I'm offering isn't enough.
Yeah. So what is your concern here?
So my concern lately is that because I don't have money coming in at the moment, you know, that, you know, if I offer $10 or $20, that's not enough. You know, that's not good enough.
Yeah. Okay. That 몰라. 다 디데치니야. 다다 그런기 망용다. 아니 네체가 마파베 디데치 동에들라. 지바스 마도 디데나야. 양 디데치 쳬바풀 페나 쳬바풀 디데치 디가슬라 페나 마랑기 용법단 뛰네. 디데치 지원데 산자 마랑게 되는 페나 고무추 이슈 데즈치마도 아니 페마트에게 내당 레디가슬라 니 디기데스 디기 디 바다 인지 말에 다디 디기 말에 용타래 라기 this percentage level those the conditions
근데 선들 내가 대가랑 제일 초로 차로 그래서 아니 되게 말한 그만 쪽으로 맞아 근데 나가지 그밖에 저런 삼의 여가 대가랑 있고 삼의 야와다 두어있는 야와 있고 저런 특가 차로 이미 차로
so having that kind of worry that whatever I may offer may the amount or the size is not sufficient or not enough to offer to that object. That kind of concerns is actually, it is not bad concerns. It is virtuous concerns that it is showing that actually you have a kind of like a more inclination or interest to engage into this kind of activities. And that kind of concern is not fault at all. That kind of concern is good. It is virtuous action.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll dedicate this. Oi, Sonam de Donje Zebani, Tomne Nibe Donam Hamjeni, Chegana Je Walon Dubai, Sibe Tolen Doa Dovarash, Jambal Bawe Jida, Kundo Zambo Deyan Dejinde, Deda Kunji Jesu Dalojin, Gewan Deda Tamje Rabdo Mo, Gewan De Yeshe Okun, Sonam Yeshe Zozo Ne, Sonam Yeshe Lechonwe, Tamba Kunyin Tobarasho, Sanje Kusum Nyebe Chenlam Chenye Mingyur Dembe Chenlam Dan, Gendim Mechen Dembe Chenlam Ki, Jidara Moa Melam Dubarsho. Read in English. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemies, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the waves of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming, by conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambalyam, and in the same way as Samandabhadra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue, may all being perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, sonam, and wisdom, yeshi, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies which result from these two accumulation. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sangye, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the immutable truth of the Dharmata, Chenyi, by the blessing of the infallible aspiration of the Sangha, Genmin, may this prayer of dedication be accomplished just as it is. Okay, so everyone, I have little announce. So tomorrow is the final day that and this scripture will going to be conclude, uh, complete teaching. So tomorrow that PPMC will going to host this thanks offering to the our Khenpo to gratitude that sharing or granting all his wisdom to all of us, his knowledge, and being so generous of his knowledge and the whatsoever wisdom that he gave us. So to gratitude that, and we are making this small mandala offering. So anyone who wants to participate, and you can make a donation to our center, via e-transfer or payable, that you can choose in our website. There's options in the bottom of the front page. Uh, so, and then also, yes, so I would like to say that thanks, especially for myself to the Khenpo because of the, how to say, accepting this, our invitations, and completing this very important teaching, that very foundations which so much lacking in this Western societies. They're just jumping up to the high teachings and so quickly and abruptly, then later and they get lost up there and then don't know what to do. So having this kind of foundation, it's so important to uh, move forward towards implementing spiritual path. So I, from myself, that I would really much like to thanks to Khenpo to sharing this his wisdom. And actually we have also saying, and this kind of wisdom or kind of like the knowledge, and it is priceless, and one will not going to able to buy from anywhere in the world. And this all, even though we may think, when we say this, we may think Oh, no, no, such that if I buy a air ticket and if I give some sort of like a salary towards those knowledgeable person, they can give. It is not like that. It is completely wrong. If the teacher just work for the salary, then he won't give you the real his wisdom, real his knowledge. He just give you a very tricky way that we have saying this Chinese Kung Fu masters. They teach you everything, but not one key point. So they didn't got defeated by their own student. So it is not like that. So if you pay and then try to get this knowledge, wisdom, then it may becomes like that. So this all has to come through the very sincere and very with a bountiful sense or generous sense. Then we can really get this all wisdom and this all knowledge. And it cannot buy by money. When we say cannot buy by money, some people may misunderstand in that way. So that I just want to make it clear. So remove it, that kind of silly thought, silly thinking. Anyway, so it is priceless that I have full of confidence that this kind of wisdom and this kind of knowledge that genuinely we can get it from the knowledgeable persons, from the teachers. It is something uh, cannot really buy or cannot really demand. It is also only comes when students have really sincere and faith and the devotion. Then teacher also feels that okay, I should give all my wisdom and knowledge to them because they're really looking for it, genuinely looking for it, not just for making money or making fame or get some reputation. So when these two things, both from the student side and then teacher side, got this sense each other, then genuine wisdom and knowledge will going to be discovered or will going to be appeared. So therefore, I just like to uh, express my gratitude towards Khenpo, and thank you all. And have a good rest. See you, Tomato.